Hi, I'm Julie, and this is episode 2 of Ugly Pennies. And today I want to be talking about boundaries and everything that encompasses those. I'm going to touch on as much as I can, as this is a huge topic. So I kind of want to start in kind of extreme sort of cases. It's where it's gone too far and it doesn't seem like boundaries are working in these types of relationships. I do want to mention the domestic abuse and all the signs of abuse, and also a site to help victims that are affected by domestic abuse from their partner or loved one. So first of all, for anonymous confidential help available 24/7, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 or 1-800-787-3224 now. And the website that you can get a lot of this information off of, I'm just going to read a short bit from one section. It is ncadv.org. And I'm going to put that link below as well, so you can read up. There's a lot of good information here, at least for awareness. So I'm just going to read: what traits do abusers have in common? There is no one typical, detectable personality of an abuser. However, they do often display common characteristics. An abuser often denies the existence or minimizes the seriousness of the violence and its effect on the victim and other family members. An abuser objectifies the victim and often sees them as their property or sexual objects. An abuser has low self-esteem and feels powerless and ineffective in the world. He or she may appear successful, but internally they feel inadequate. An abuser externalizes the causes of their behavior. They blame their violence on circumstances such as stress, their partner's behavior, a bad day, or on alcohol, drugs, or other factors. An abuser may be pleasant and charming between periods of violence and is often seen as a nice person to others outside the relationship. So again, if you need help, there are resources for that. But coming back to boundaries and setting them for yourself, even just boundaries within yourself, what you're okay with you doing, and also people around you, and also how to respect their boundaries as well. And it's such a fun little tap dance to do. So I do want to start with, just a second. When it comes to setting boundaries, there is a lot of good that it can do for you. So backing this up, in order to practice having healthy boundaries for yourself and also respecting other people's, I'm just going to name these off: good mental health, good emotional health, developed autonomy, developed identity, avoidance of burnout, and also influence others' behavior. So when you are, not so much to help you get what you want, but in its own kind of way, I'm looking at it that way. And also I wanted to bring up one definition that I think is important to know and to look further into. So I'm taking this from Wikipedia, the definition from Wikipedia, and it's called self-agency. So right here, I'm just going to read a little bit here. Self-agency, also known as the phenomenal will, is the sense that some actions are self-generated. Scientist Benjamin, I want to say this is pronounced Lebay, was the first to study it, discovering that brain activity predicts the action before one even has conscious awareness of his or her intention to act upon that action. Daniel Wegner later defined the three criteria of self-agency: priority, exclusivity, and consistency. According to Wegner, priority means that an action must be planned before the action is initiated. The interval between the action and the effect is known as the intentional binding. Another criterion for self-agency is exclusivity, which means the effect is due to the person's action and not because of other potential causes for the effect. The last criterion Wegner suggests was consistency. Consistency means that one's planned action must occur as planned. So I will also post a link to that so you can read more about that. I just wanted to touch on that before we dive any deeper into this. All right. So I'm going to start out reading a little bit before I kind of go on my own little spiels here. So this first one that I'll be reading from is called The Power of Boundaries, and it is from psychologytoday.com, and it was published on October 14th, 2019, and I'm going to be reading a little bit through here because it touches on a lot of stuff, and I also wanted to make that known, so I'm just kind of combining all these the best I can. Okay. Sharing personal information brings people together and helps them like one another more. But in an age of self-disclosure, how do you know when you've gone too far or when someone else has ulterior motives? All right, and I'm going to read a little bit of this, and I'm sorry, Mom, but I'm going to drop the F-bomb because it's written here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to be kind of skimming through this and reading the key points that I've highlighted throughout this article. All right. We live in a time of unparalleled personal expression. Long-lost coworkers and high school acquaintances daily invite us into their homes and their psyches. Traditionally marginalized groups are speaking out. Victims are confronting abusers. Addicts are owning their pasts. The freedom to speak your truth and give zero fucks brings a lot of benefits, but it can also lead to some thorny questions, like how much we should reveal about ourselves and how much we should want to know about others. All right, and then I wanted to skim down to this bit. In healthy relationships, romantic or otherwise, I believe this name is pronounced Bakarova. Makarova says we attune ourselves to others' boundaries by making gradual bids of trust. For example, on a first date, you might confess that you've had a tough day at work because your boss was snippy at you. If the other person doesn't say anything back, chances are you wouldn't further extend, she says. Bids of trust are lessened when there's no reciprocity. You're suddenly not safe with this person. All right. And I'm going to flip back and forth between a couple of these where they're relevant with each other. Okay, so on this one, this is from healthline.com, and this article is called The No BS Guide to Protecting Your Emotional Space. All right, and I wanted to get down to this part. Boundaries give us space to grow and be vulnerable. We all deal with complex feelings when life happens. By setting boundaries and then breaking them when the time is right, you're showing your vulnerability. This could be as simple as talking openly to friends and family. When we display our vulnerability to someone, we let them know that they're welcome to open up to us sometime when they need to. But vulnerability and oversharing are different. Shared vulnerability brings people closer together over time. Oversharing, on the other hand, can use drama to manipulate, hold another person emotionally hostage, or force the relationship in one direction. So here's some of those TMI red flags where we talked about oversharing. That would be posting personal rants and attacks on social media. No filter or regard to who gets a download of daily dramas. Sharing personal details with new people in hopes of hurrying the friendship along. Dominated, one-sided conversations. Expecting on-call emotional therapy from friends and family. Learning the difference is also a critical part of setting and communicating boundaries. The occasional overshare isn't a crime. We're all likely guilty of a little harmless TMI now and again. But if you suspect you're doing it regularly, you could be trampling other people's boundaries. All right. And also wanted to touch on one thing that I really liked in the article. Coming back to the article, The Power of Boundaries, I did like that they touched on it for men. Um, and this is, I'm just going to read a bit of the first few paragraphs of this on the section that says, when guys open up. During the initial getting to know you phase of a relationship, we engage in reciprocal sharing, but Sprecher says that as healthy relationships develop, we stop adhering to the straight tit for tat. If you're on a fifth date and you had a really bad day and want to vent, you wouldn't necessarily want the other person to say, okay, my turn, I want to talk about my horrible thing. At the very beginning, reciprocity might be extremely important. Later, the responsiveness of your partner is more important. As relationships progress, pairs discuss fewer topics but go deeper. The disclosure timetable, however, can vary greatly. For most of their 20-year friendship, Roshdi, I'm sorry, I think that's how you pronounce it, Roshdi, and his two best friends never got very personal in their conversations. We'd talk about sports, their kids, what we did last weekend, surface level stuff, says Roshdi, a San Diego business analyst. But when his marriage ended after 14 years, Roshdi wanted to know about his friends' experiences since they had gone through divorces too. Were they sad? What did they do with their ex-wife's stuff? Was it still in the bedroom when dates came over? We got so much closer because I had opened up. For them, it was stuff that had already happened 3 or 4 years earlier, but we'd never talked about it because we're guys and we don't feel we need to. But once we opened the door, it was awesome. I thought, is this what it's like being a woman, where you get to connect this much with another person? Rashti's instincts are correct. Women tend to reveal more of their emotional lives to one another than men do. Men tend to socialize with activity-based experiences, whether it's going fishing or watching sports together, Bakarova says. They're less likely to have heart-to-hearts where they spend a really long time talking about their problems. So, if you'd like to read more on this article, again, I have it posted below. And then I also wanted to touch on how to set personal boundaries. And so you have to define what the desired boundary is. And I'm going back to the link from Positive Psychology on how to set them. Define, identify desired boundary. Communicate, say what you need. Stay simple, don't over-explain. Set consequences, say why it's important. So that could be, this is all highly individualistic as you get into it. And you can't, such as, let's say you're trying to set a boundary, like, I don't know, maybe I come home and my husband is busy doing something very noisy right when I come home from work, and I need to sit down and figure out something. I could tell him, like, look, when I come home, I need some decompression time, if we can adjust this, and it's all a team effort. And, so things as simple as that, and we have enough, we reciprocate with each other. So small things like that are absolutely doable. But then it can be a little bit on the extreme, where someone absolutely does not want to hear your boundaries or disagrees with them. And that's where it can get a little tricky as far as what you need to do to take care of yourself. But to be honest, I've had to set up some pretty major boundaries between myself and people as close to me as my own family members, to where it's where I had to be like, look, the only thing we ever talk about is very, it was just always such dramatic and accusatory discussions we would have, and I tried to voice my concern, like, look, if this is all we're ever going to talk about, if this is constantly beating down on me, then I don't have an interest in continuing a speaking relationship, even though it was intermittent and we wouldn't talk very often. If that's all we ever talk about, I have no interest in continuing that for myself, as I need some type of positivity around me, especially that I'm, a little bit sensitive to it. So And if I'm only being met with, you know, the worst of the worst and the most ridiculous drama you could imagine for pretty much no reason, why would I continue? Why would I continue to do that to myself? For what? For what reason? You know, is what I had to boil it down to. Like I don't care if we've been friends for years. I don't care if you're my dad, I don't care if you're my brother. I don't care if we grew up across the street from each other. You know, if you can't respect my boundaries, then what are we even doing? Why are we trying to continue this relationship? Um, so that's my generalized takeaway, and also just to sort of elaborate more on why I chose to talk about boundaries today. Um, I talk with my therapist, and I did mention to her what I'm doing here, and she was very supportive of that, and is encouraging me, and I really appreciated that. And I was talking to her about, you know, I'm not sure about what to, you know, kind of theme. Like, I sort of want to have a topic I can expand on. And she mentioned boundaries to me, since that's something that we discuss a lot. And sometimes I have an issue with wondering if it's the right thing to do. You know, like, is it okay to set this for myself in this manner? Is it okay to, because I don't want to trample on other people's as well. But at the same time, you know, I have to have them, because if I just continue to, you know, I'll essentially just be trampled on, and then who am I anymore? You know, like I'll lose the sense of self. So that's why I'm aware, and I'm pretty sure a lot of my friends are laughing at that. But I'm a type A kind of personality. I can be pretty abrasive, and uh, and not to excuse what I say, but I'm a lot more direct and brash, and that's just sort of, you know, that's where I kind of come from. That's how I'm used to communicating. That's my communication style. And I'm working on it to make it more, God, I don't even know what you want to call it. Sorry. Holistic. That's the word I was looking for. Sorry. That was a brain fart. Man, that was a good brain fart. But anyway, so that's what I'm looking to do, is to make anything I do as holistic as I possibly can. And I mean, I really can't expect much more out of myself, really. Like, every day I just want to do the best I can. I want to respect myself, and also respect other people too. But there are times where, you know, we have to draw lines in the sand. And also, drawing lines in the sand, you know, you might have to bring up your boundaries a couple of times before it sets in, because I like to use analogies, sorry. But you know, because it's written in sand, you know, it's perfectly fine to redraw the line in the sand. So that's what I'm getting at. That's what I would like to you know, sort of take away from this. And I kind of want to get on one more article real quick, because this is sort of all centering around self-care. And to be honest, self-care sort of, I kind of don't like the term very much. So I'm just going to read a little bit from this article, where you can read on it more if you also struggle with the term self-care, and just how kind of corny it's gotten these days with different things. So I'm going to just skim over this article really quick. Does the term self-care nauseate you? 5 tweaks for when the term self-care feels cringeworthy. And this is also from Psychology Today. So the key points. Popularized self-care can have unintended consequences, creating aversions and distractions towards well-being practices that protect health. Scientifically grounded self-care can help us stay and do well during challenging times. Adopting new literacies in self-care can help reduce skepticism regarding practices that support well-being. So I'm going to just skip over these highlights right here, just to kind of make the point. The term self-care can trivialize deeper systemic issues. The term self-care is being associated with lavish experiences and indulgent products. The term self-care is a bit cringeworthy. So there are a few more things on here, like the suggested mantras for when, you're kind of struggling with even thinking that it's self-care, because I can't think of many other terms to use, you know. So, and then when it gets so kind of bastardized, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, like for the meaning of the word, just to help ground you back into knowing that it is absolutely okay to take care of yourself, and it's a navigation, to even just figure out what's best for you. But there's some things that I feel like that you can know, where like, I'm going to use touching the stove analogies a lot because I don't really know what else to say. So, like it's, like if I were to touch this stove that's right here beside me, I wouldn't so much blame the stove. It's a stove. What did I expect it to do? And so I have to be reasonable with my boundaries that I'd set with that stove. So for myself, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to physically touch it while it's on. But I do need to clean it, but I'll wait until it cools off when it's ready to be cleaned. And then I'll do it that way. And then if the stove could talk back to me, I wonder what it would say. I'm gonna be like, and I have to tell it this, like, I don't know, it'd be like, of course, stupid, what are you thinking? But, it's still like, it can hurt me, and it has the potential to, as any person can. And sometimes we're not aware of it. I mean, sometimes we don't even know we're hurting ourselves or hurting someone else. Or if we are, we don't know what to do about it. So I think it's important to discuss boundaries with with anybody, with your partner, with your family, with your friends, co-workers, your kids, and your kids to display them back to you. Like, I read recently about a kid that didn't like, that his mom was posting all of his stuff on social media so everyone would find out, he got a new haircut, he's getting braces, before he could tell anybody. And then he'd go to school like, oh, hey, look at my hey, look at my new haircut. And they'd be like, yeah, we know. So, he had to have a talk with his mom, and that's all. That doesn't mean that, there's such a horrible thing. Like I said, with the stove, it's still a stove. It has that potential. You just have to make it, like something regulated for you, so where you can be around this stove and exist in the same room as this stove. I mean, like, however, if this was a stove that, was emitting like noxious gases like crazy, or had a leak or something, I'm absolutely getting the hell out of here, out of the same room as the stove. If it were to do things like that to me, or if the stove is on fire, like, well, I have a fire extinguisher right here, but if I didn't, I'm booking it, like, I'm grabbing my kitty cat, I'm grabbing my husband, and we're booking it. Because I don't really care about much else. It's all just stuff, But I love my kitty cat, and I love my husband, and I don't know what I'd do without them. So that's kind of where I want to wrap up here. Please take the time to read the links provided below. And because this is all really good stuff. This is stuff I sorted through. I spent a good bit of time sorting through these to kind of pick on my key points. But honestly, the whole articles of these are just great. And even one of them is awesome. It is the one from Positive Psychology. Has PDF worksheets. I love worksheets. Like, it's in my adult life, like looking at worksheets, I feel like it's like coloring pages where when I was little, even though this is all self-discovery and, like working through traumatic things for me or something when I do all these like CBT worksheets or things like that. But in the how to set healthy boundaries, it gives you 10 examples and then also PDF worksheets. And again, like when you're given resources, given tools, I highly, highly suggest taking advantage of those. Especially when it comes down to, working on yourself. You're not only becoming better for yourself, you're becoming better for the people around you. And I cannot stress how important that is to me. And that's all I want to be. That's all I ever wanted to be. And I know I struggle with a lot due to things that I've been through, which is why I want to touch on a little bit of everything here. Because, I mean, like I said, for this, as far as anything like, trauma, mental illness, addiction, all that, I have all of that. I have all of that in my past. We may not be exactly the same, but this is not a competition on who has it worse, who had it this manner, who had it that manner. And when you focus more on similarities than you do differences, I think, your vision can become more peripheral instead of seeing life through that, because it's very frustrating when you can't see everything around you. I know. So thank you for listening to this and taking the time, and I hope the audio is better on this one. I know there were a little bit of issues last time, so I had to resort to just using my phone because I could not figure it out on my computer, and it crashed my computer trying to do these other applications. It's just, oh my God, I'm sick of it. Oh, and another good thing I want to talk about tomorrow, I'm getting my tooth fixed where I got the gap. So I'm pretty excited about that. My wallet's not happy. I am not happy this happened to me, but I'm just glad that there's something going on there. So I wanted to end that on like a positive, happy note for me. That's cool. But anyway, again, this is Ugly Pennies. This is our channel. This isn't just my channel. This is our channel. So just think of me like the Geico gecko, like I'm just the lizard face, for this. Whatever the hell that, I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm going to stop now because I'm just going on. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for everything you guys do. Thank you guys for subscribing to my channel. That is so awesome. And I hope to see everybody again next week. So thank you so much for taking the time. All right. Have a great day. Bye-bye.